Hi, Aries. Welcome to November 2019. Here we are in one of those mystical, magical months where we practice trust and knowing and softness. And that goes for everyone. We are all working with the energy of Scorpio season, the sun moving through the sign of Scorpio all the way until about the 22nd when the sun moves into Sag. We are going into deep investigation, deep intuitive learning, right? And not only that, not only do we have the sun moving through Scorpio, we have a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio for the first 3 weeks of the month, all the way until November 18th. And for you all, that takes place in your 8th house of transformation. So this Mercury retrograde is going to have a little bit more of that feeling like you are shedding a skin and like you are maybe welcoming in the newest version of yourself and you are finding peace with who you have become. The note that came to me, Aries, as I was feeling through your energy was that this month is a month where it's okay to accept who you are now, what you look like now, how your body's maybe changed in the course of this year or the last couple of years, or how your values have shifted or how what you thought you really needed to accomplish has changed, and sometimes we put value judgments on some of those changes because we feel like we should still be wanting the things we wanted 2 years ago, or we should still be looking the way that we looked 2 years ago because for some reason those desires and those looks and those beliefs are kind of the good old days, the myth of the good old days, right? And this month is helping you, give you a chance to stop fighting against your true nature, stop fighting against who you really are, to relax into who you are now, and to not only relax into it, but to actively love who you have become and where you are now. So that Mercury retrograde is going to ask you to do that. If you're interested in knowing more about what Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is all about, I'm going to be doing the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio video over on my Patreon, so go join me over there if you haven't yet, and we will go deep diving into why Mercury retrograde in Scorpio has a bit of a different flavor than the popular myths about Mercury retrograde often purport. A couple cards wanted to come out. Hermit and Queen of Wands. So you're going to have that Mercury retrograde in your 8th house of transformation. You're also going to have a full moon in your 2nd house in Taurus, in your house of value and beauty and truth on the 12th. And that is going to be illuminating what you really value, what you really want in this lifetime, where you really want to put all that valuable Aries energy, right? And to reevaluate anywhere that feels like it isn't in alignment with who you are now and what you look and feel like now. 10 of Swords. There is that skin shedding that I was talking about this month and how much the energies working with you there are doing that. Now, of course, there's the skin shedding, and then as we move into Sagittarius season, there is an illumination, there is an expansion for you. The sun in Sag is a very supportive energy for you. It really lights you up, it gets you moving, it gets you thinking outside of the box, it gets you thinking outside of self-limiting beliefs and into the big, wide, wild open. Ooh, 2 more cards. Knight of Cups, Ace of Swords. Yep. And so there's going to be a new moon in Sagittarius. Jupiter and Venus are going to be conjunct in Sagittarius near the end of the month, and Neptune is going direct on the 27th. So the end of the month kind of has more of this focused, driven fire sign quality to it than the beginning of the month. And there is quite the progression going on there. Ace of Cups. 2 aces, yes. But what I will say is the only way you're going to reap all these benefits, all these beautiful good things, is if you're kind enough to yourself to love, actively love and embrace who you are now. Mark Nepo says, you have to love whatever is an obstacle in your life until it ceases to be an obstacle. So often we feel like maybe somebody doesn't love us back, or we are low on energy, or we are frustrated by a limit on our perceived limit on our resources. We have to find a way to embrace it Queen of Swords, until it becomes part of our empowerment, which I know that is challenging at times, right? That's kind of the logic of this Mercury retrograde, especially for you Aries. Okay, I'm going to pull one more card. We're going to talk through what I am seeing here for you all when it comes to your energetic cycle and how to work with the blessings that come with a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. We haven't had one of these in quite a few years, so what is it? Three of Pentacles. Okay. There's a lot of building energy here. There's a lot of creative energy here. There's a lot of energy of intent. You know, like I was saying, the message that came through for Aries right away as I was sitting outside in a park this morning watching the leaves fall from the trees, I was sitting there thinking about you all. And the message that came through was, accept who you are now. Right? Part of who you are now is you're still that cardinal fire energy. And where you've had to kind of learn the other modalities of creation and of being, we are all working on incorporating all the archetypes and all the different ways of being. That initiating fire energy is still something that is so innately in you and is still so valuable. And so I'm noticing that with these cards, right? Here's the thing, you have a true self. You have something that's very true for you, right? The Hermit and the Queen of Wands, these are truth seekers. And if there's one thing to say about Scorpio season in general, it's that this is a season of truth. It's a season of honesty. It is a season of introspection and finding that the answers are very simple, very crisp, and there's a dedication to truth, right? And the Hermit and Queen of Wands are very much that incisive, you already know where you need to go, what's in alignment with you, what feels right to you. And one of the things that happens the first few weeks of this month, first half of this month for sure, is that realization, that connective point wakes right up and gets very, very clear. And that vision of who you're meant to be and how you're meant to move through the world wakes up, right? And it won't leave you alone. It's not going to just say, oh, maybe next month. It's going to be like, hey, I'm here. Now, with that comes this Ten of Swords, right? Because in order to embody your big destiny here, that is really tied to elder wisdom in the Hermit, and empowered fire sign energy here in the Queen of Wands, right? The Queen of Wands is about creative action. She's about sovereignty. She's about manifestation, quite honestly, but not in the way of struggle, in the way of knowing oneself and knowing one's path, right? Both of these are knowers, you know, knowing your path, seeing your vision, knowing your truth. And that knowing requires often a release of an old self, a release of burdens, of heaviness, of something that needs to just be released. You know, in terms, you can focus on release, but what I want you to do more of this month is think more about connection, because often what's going on when we are thinking about release, or we're thinking about healing, or we're thinking about death or shedding, what's really happening is that we are stepping from a place where we feel a little bit disconnected from our truest selves, from higher self, from inner self, from source, and stepping back into connection. So focusing on merging with that connectedness. The Ten of Swords is a gateway to feeling more deeply connected with what really works for you and what are the really next steps. However, when the Ten of Swords is here, it often means something sloughing off, sloughing away, leaving, changing shape, changing form. You know, this is a card of death, and that can be a really positive thing, because often this is very freeing, right? And the only reason it can be scary is if we're holding on to who we've been or who we think we were supposed to have been by this point, right? So you're being asked to do that, and you are being asked via this Hermit, Queen of Wands energy that is so crisp and clear. Now, immediately. I mean, the thing that's wild, Aries, when I look at your reading and when I look at these cards, and even when I just think about your energy and this whole journey of accepting yourself, how you are today, and how amazing that is today, that as soon as you do that, and as soon as you let this sloughing process happen, everything just works. Everything just works, right? There is that release of resistance, that re-merging with being held in the knowing that things are working in your favor brings you everything you need. You don't have to be in resistance. So, stop fighting against how you naturally are. Stop fighting against all of that stuff. Stop trying to put armor on. Stop trying to force different things on yourself, right? Because as soon as you release, look at this. Knight of Cups, Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups. This is about stepping through doorways meant for you, right? For those of you working through relationship and the depth of relationship, this month is all about clarity of shared vision. Clarity of how you want to move through relationship, deeper connection. And guess what? Anybody who is kind of thinking about love or those deeper relationships, those relationships prosper because you're just who you are. You're who you are, and that blesses the relationship. That blesses the connectiveness. Whenever we are trying to lie to ourselves or put that mask on and perform, which is a form of lying, it's a form of obscuring ourselves. We never really connect with the people that we want to be with. But when we take off those weighty robes, we take off that weighted feeling and we open to this, whenever we are our authentic selves, we are loved that much more deeply. We are loved that much more deeply. We are able to express ourselves that much more easily. And we are able to accept the expression of love from another that more easily. And the message that comes through for me here today is you are meant to have that ease. You are meant to have that ease of reciprocation. And that doesn't just have to be with romantic partnerships. This can have to do with family that you're already living with. It can have to do with the people that you love the most in the world. It can have to do with coworkers as well. There is a huge infusion of energy here coming in for you to connect deeper. And like I said, that can be really powerful for if you are looking to meet somebody or you are looking for that connectiveness. This is here. These are fresh beginnings. But the only way these fresh beginnings can come in is if you are just being who you are in your natural state. And that sounds really easy, right? But how often are you thinking, I'm in my natural state, and your natural state is you being, independent, and I can just do this on my own, even though that feels really uncomfortable. It doesn't feel true to who you are, right? Or just any little detail like that. How much of it has to have you in warrior mode when that's only one facet of who you are? You have so much more underneath that, right? So that release, that sweet openness. And one of the things I will say about the logic of Mercury retrogrades, just in general, but especially in water signs, is that you cannot manipulate the puzzle pieces to come to you the way that you think they're supposed to come to you. They will come in packages, in timing that are really good, but that you didn't come up with. So you have to surrender a little bit to love, to connectedness, and to trust in order to receive the wisdom for this month. And it's just one of those things about November that we are working with. Now, we have all this opening energy, Knight of Cups, Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups, beautiful energy, right? Full, rich, embodied energy. We also have the Queen of Swords. And the Queen of Swords often shows up when we are taking a space in life, and you could be dealing with a Queen of Swords as well, a communicator, a boundary setter, but taking a space in life where we're also very clear about what we're willing to give, where we're willing to put our energy, and where we are not. And with that Ten of Swords and with the Queen of Swords coming through all these other cards of abundance and opening, the one thing I will say is that that discernment of what's really serving you is going to be a big question this month. And the Queen of Swords, the thing with her is the answers are always simple. It's not about going around in circles over and over again, overanalyzing, reanalyzing, re-incorporating, reassessing over and over and over again, right? It's often, does this actually feel like something I want to do? Like if a friend calls you up and they're like, let's go to the movies, but you're tired because you just had a full work week and you just want to sit on the couch and read. It's okay to be like, not today, right? And those little moments are really important for living in who you are today, right? So the Queen of Swords very much has that energy of making sure you're very clear. Now, a lot of times we worry that if we say no to things or we set a boundary of I need to rest a little bit more, I need to slow down a little bit more, that opportunities are going to stop showing up. And of course, we can't just hobbit hole away forever and then expect everybody to come knocking on our door and finding us. However, there are times when it's okay to just slow down a little bit. And often when we don't say yes to things that aren't quite what we need, and we just let that space breathe, the things that we really are meant to work on come through, right? 3 of Pentacles is the flow. It's the creative flow. 3 is a very divine number of flow, of the creative voice, mother, father, child's energy, right? So 3 of Pentacles is about the ease. So there's a really big difference here between when you have to be in Queen of Swords mode, when you realize something's just got to be put over here, and when something is just flowing. And this month, you're really going to notice it's very heightened. What is flowing, what is not. It will be very, very clear to you which of those is happening. Okay, so I have some affirmations to work with this self-acceptance month that we have going on for you, Aries, and here they are. I allow myself to be natural and relaxed in the moment. I am loved for being myself. I can relax into the moment and allow positive experiences to surround me and emanate from me. That is powerful, right? You don't have to be always the active agent in everything all the time. You are allowed to shed a skin. You are allowed to take a moment. You are allowed to set healthy boundaries. And you're also allowed to ease into the things that are easy, that are in flow, that are in happy, harmonious energy with you. And that is really going to be your journey this month. What feels natural and in alignment to you when you are relaxed and you are just being totally yourself? That's where I want you to look, time and again. When you don't feel you're performing, when you don't feel that you're trying to make things happen, make situations one way or another, that you just are. What does that look like? What does that feel like? That's where you're meant to be going. And everything that happens this month will be reminding you of that journey over and over again. Like I said, you can find a deeper discussion of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio on Patreon. And if you're interested, maybe I'll make some graphics of these affirmations that you can keep and download on Patreon as well. If you're interested in that, I may create those for that because I think that would be really nice to have. You can also find me on my website, SARAHTAROT.com, or on Instagram, at SarahVerba. And I will be doing an email notification for the 2020 calendar for my private one-on-one readings. So if you want to be notified of those one-on-one readings, I would highly recommend shooting me an email, and I will include you on that list so that you get an email around December letting you know when the calendar is open so you can book your session. If you're interested in that, I would love to hear from you. Of course, I'm always wearing my lovely PinkLune. You can find her Etsy shop in the link below. I'm sending you all, my Aries, so much love. You know how much I love you. You know how much you light my heart up and make me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And I am sending you all of my love. Have a beautiful November. I will see you in December. Have a blessed ride through Mercury retrograde.